All right. Parashat Tetzei, as we always know, this is a very famous and special parasha. For some great people who were born, this is the mitzvah parasha. One of them is me. Parashat Tetzei. In order to be truthfully pure, really pure, there are few things and few actions, few areas and few actions that a person has to leave outside of his domain, that he should not be involved with, outside of his heart altogether. And otherwise, he is not going to be able to really be doing what we call tshuva shlema all his life, but rather instead of dealing with tshuva, all he would try to do is to give a kosher certification for his non-kosher acts. And that's something that it's really bad. One of the things that Parashat tells us is Lo tavi etnan zona umechir kelev bet Hashem Elokai, right? Lechol neder ki toavat Hashemi, and so on and so on, gam shnehem. In other words, you cannot bring a harlot. Etnan zona is the payment in which the harlot, the prostitute, gets for her services. That money she cannot donate to Bet HaMikdash. Cannot. Also, we'll see what it is. Mechir kelev, even if she, according to some mefarshim, even if she bought something for that, and then secondary, that still is not allowed to, or substitute, for example, she gave a dog and in exchange she got a lamb, that cannot also come as a korban to Hashem. So the main point of this commandment is that prohibition to bring korbanot from the tzon as an exchange for a dog, or as we said, the harlot is for her work. And it's a machloket chachamim if that is a complete prohibition, and you're not allowed to, that's mine, and you're not allowed to use that etnan is the payment, in other words, in any kind of kodesh, any kind of maaseh kodesh, and that is the opinion of Tana Kama in the Mishnah, or maybe that it's a specific prohibition that what is not allowed is to bring those specifically directly as a korban to Hashem, and that's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you're allowed to make from them other types of tashmishe kedusha. You can't bring a korban, but let's say the harlot wants to donate her money to buy a parochet. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you're allowed to do so. Only for a korban, you're not allowed to, or to exchange the price of a dog. For other things, you can do it, but not for korban to Bet HaMikdash. That's why you're allowed to, for example, take the money of the harlot, buy from that a cow to make the red cow, to do korban of afar para aduma, and that afar, that ashes of the red heifer, which you can find many in Scotland. I love many things that they make in Scotland. Among them is red cows and whiskey. That's about it, and that could be okay to do, and of course that's his opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. So it says Yotzei dofen ve'etnan u'mechir psula. Rabbi Eliezer machshir. Rabbi Eliezer says it's okay. Why? Shene'emar, because it says Lo tavi etnan zona u'mechir kelev bet Hashem Elokecha. To Bet HaMikdash as a korban you can bring, but for other things you could, because it says ve'en zu ba'al habayit. This is not for the Bet HaMikdash, and that is a Mishnah in Masechet Para in Perek Bet Mishnah Gimel. So in that machloket we see two different world concepts of how to approach this thing altogether. So one approach holds that the concept of etnan zona, the payment of a harlot is pasul, thank you very much, is pasul mi'ikara and there's no way that you could do to kosher it. There's nothing you could do. It's gone forever. It's completely impure. You cannot use that. Why? Because it's kesef bazui. It's a disgraceful money, and that is something that the tum'ah in a way attaches itself to that money. That's the same thing as you see by Chachamim. And many times that they need money for yeshivot, and the yeshivot, let me tell you, they suffer with money. It's not easy. It's not easy. And yet, they would not take money that comes from Chilul Shabbat. Especially a famous story with the Baba Sali, that he had two sides. Right? People will come into the Baba Sali for a bracha, they will give him money. So one time he will take the money, he'll put it on the right side. One time he take the money, put it on the left side. So his shamash asked him, he says, Rabbeinu, why do you put it like this? He said, this money for Bet Midrash has to be completely clean. There's no Chilul Shabbat, there's no Gezel, there's nothing in it. So for Talmud Torah, the money has to be pure. For other stuff, give the money to Aniyim, do whatever you want with it, I don't really care. But for Torah, it has to be completely pure. So even though the yeshivot suffer, that money has to be kosher money. I remember, one of the Rosh Yeshivot that I knew, he said the following. He said, he used to go to people, to give them money. And he used to tell them, I said, listen, I'm doing you a favor taking your money. You're not doing me a favor giving money for the yeshiva. I'm doing you a favor to take this because it's the biggest good for you to be tomech betalmidei chachamim. And this guy would not go to anybody who would be Mechalel Shabbat, who has stories about him. You only take, as they say, kosher money, which is a very interesting point together. And this is, by the way, how's the Rekanati is mefareshable. The Rekanati, Rabbi Menachem Rekanati, was an Italian sage that lived around the 13th century. It's a tremendous perush of the Torah. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, which is beyond me, it's not so popular today. So not many people look at the Rekanati. I have no idea why. It's a wonderful thing. And this is how the Rekanati is mefaresh the Isur. And it says, Ramaz lanu hakatuv שישמרו המידה שנקראת בית אלוקים הרומזת לשכינה בטהרה ובקדושה. It means that Bet Hashem is not just a place, a geographic place or real estate place. Bet Hashem is a certain attribute that exists inside of each and every one of us. That you need to make sure that it stays completely pure all the time. It says, and that is the remez of Bet Hashem is a remez for the Shekhinah, the Holy Providence, right? That has to be completely betahara ubekdusha, in pureness and holiness, uleashpia elea tzinoot hachesed v'harachamim, and to direct towards it the pipelines of abundance and kindness to it. Velo tinak mi'etnan hazona u'mechir kelev, and that source has to be completely pure to the point that it cannot take anything that comes from such sources as the etnan zona or the mechir kelev, or the substitution of a dog. And why is that? Because he says besod hanachash shehitil zohama bechava elyona. He says there is a remez for the initial sin of the snake that impurified the concept of Chava Elyona, and that's where the Yetzer Ra came about. That's in terms of the confusion that we have today, that we don't know anymore really what's good and what's bad. That's why we need so many rules of the Torah to really define to us what's good and what's bad. So that lack of confusion, and today, as you could see, and it goes hand in hand. Sexual promiscuity goes hand in hand with deterioration of society. When people are not sanua, when people don't enter b'kedusha, society falls down. There's nothing to do, but that's the way it is. And that is because at that point, the koach of tum'ah of the nachash is mitgaber, strengthened up, and then it influences everybody like this. So if you want to be pure, if you really want to be pure, you really need to be careful about those things. You must be very careful about those things altogether. So therefore, there are some isurim that you need to be completely removed from in order to maintain within yourself that attribute that's called Bet Hashem. In other words, a person, it's up to you to make your neshama, to make your body a Bet Mikdash Me'at, a small form of a holy sanctuary, where the Shekhinah is going to be inside of it, and the Tahara is going to be inside of you, and you need to clarify it all together. And in order to do so, you need to make a gader, a tchum, a perimeter, which certain things cannot enter. Now you think about all the stuff that you enter, not through the back door into your house, through the front door into your house, and what you expose your children to, and what you expose yourself to. If you're going to be the head of the house, you know you are the guard. You're standing at the door. You need to be able to fight Milchamot Hashem. And that is Begeder Milchamot. We'll get to this Bezrat Hashem towards the end when we talk about the beginning of the parasha. As we said yesterday, this whole entire parasha, this whole entire Sefer Dvarim, but especially this parasha, prepares us for Rosh Hashanah, when we stand in front of Ribono Shel Olam, prepares us to the time that we're going to give our neshama back to Ribono Shel Olam and what's going to happen. Now you got to be careful. So the Torah makes sure that you're not going to say, well, nobody told me that, I have no idea how to do it. Here comes the Torah, it tells you straightforward how to watch out and what to do. So now, we not only that you need to define what's going to stay outside of the fence, you also need to be even more careful. Make sure that those impure things don't get a symbol of Echsher on it. They don't get the kosher sign on your bad things that you do, and should not be included in what is so-called Asiyat HaKodesh. That's why you need to be very specific to know what's good and what's bad. When you know what's good and what's bad, you kind of remove yourself the Tumah of Nachash, but you need to know. And I think one of the worst things is that we make things that are not kosher, we try to find a kosher way to make them okay. One of the things, and I told you this before many times, one thing that startled me the most in Yom Kippur, or probably the thing that startles me the most, is this line in the Vidui that we say, we made mutar, we made things that are allowed, things that were asur. Okay, it's not that I'm okay with it, but I understand it. But then we get so distorted to the point, and that's what bothers me very much, we made asur things that are mutar. So, and this kind of explanation, excuse me, is kind of mystical and really relies on the fact that things also, when you do things, it's not just ma'asim, also generates a certain fragrance to it, right? That, like, for example, that money will have a bad smell to it, that you cannot, it doesn't make a difference how much you're going to try to clean it, it's still going to smell bad. You know, like people who deal with hard material or something like this, that always the hand smell regardless of what they do. Money like this has a smell. In other words, your ma'asim, your actions affect the quality of the money that you have in your hands or whatever it is. And the other way to explain it is the one that it's Rabbi Eliezer assumes that there is only a very specific matter to this thing, and the issue is, the prohibition is to really uproot certain patterns of behavior. So, and why is this? Because a person who made a chet has a natural tendency to be machshir his sins, to be machshir his avon, right? And of course, we all know, I didn't mean it, it was okay, maybe it's this shita, maybe it's that loophole, maybe the other loophole, and so on and so forth. So therefore, if to prevent this, we says, because if we would allow a person to do so, he would find a way out of guilt, because a person knows, and I don't care what anybody says, even if you are not shomer Torah or mitzvot, if you have a viable heart, a Jewish heart, pumping in your chest, you know exactly what's right and what's wrong. You know, and you feel guilty about it, and in order to justify what you do, you come up with excuses. And the excuses are as big as there's sand in the ocean, right? It's not my fault, you guys are radical, you're fanatic, this is crazy, it's not for me. But these are all excuses to justify why you did wrong, it's okay. But it's no more than just an excuse. No more than just an excuse. And that's exactly what we're trying, that Isur is what we're trying to prevent from happening. Or people trying to kosher their sins. The Ramban writes the following, and I'm quoting, Hazonot yasu ba'etnan shelahem mitzvot. Those harlots are going to take the money which they get for the services, and they're going to make mitzvot. Why? Choshvot lechaper al chatatan. They want to overcome, that there will be an atonement for the sins. And especially, anashim megadlim klavim, people raise dogs, right? Rabotai, I'm going to tell you something. It's very popular to grow dogs. You know what the Midrash tells about people who grow dogs? I mean, I'm not talking about bad dogs. I'm talking about regular dogs. You know, regular what do you call them? Labradoodles, you know, Shih Tzus, Mitzus, Pitzus, and all the other choleras. The Midrash says the following. Even if the person, pay attention, even if the person was worthy that Eliyahu Navi would reveal himself to him because of his great actions, and Eliyahu Navi is not going to come to your house as long as you have a dog in your house. So that's without a doubt. Don't have dogs. Why do you need dogs for? You finish working on your kids, then you need dogs. Why do you need dogs? You're lonely. Go and get a chavruta, sit down and learn. No, you won't be lonely. You buy a teddy bear. What, a cat? Oh, יותר גרוע. At least if you have a cat, you'll learn halachot tzniut from a cat. But what do we need this for? What a person needs a dog?
Protection.
Protection. Move to Florida, get a gun. It's a better, huh?
Move to Long Island, get a gun.
Move to Long Island and get a gun. You're absolutely right. Protection, make sure, listen, I'll tell you something funny. Before you want protection from the Shih Tzu that's going to run away, you know, to the guy who's going to give him a piece of meat, right? Before you need protection, you know how much money it's going to cost you to have a dog a year? With vaccines and all of this, make sure that your mezuzot in your house are first class. You want shmirah on your house. You want good. Make sure your mezuzah is 100%. That's shomer dlatot Israel. That's better than all the alarm systems you have. Buy, for heaven's sake, a good mezuzah. But a guy, you go to the sofer, say, listen, you have mezuzot for me? Say, yes. Say, how much do you want? Say, I don't know, whatever. What do you have? Well, I have mezuzot for $50. I have mezuzot for $80. I have mezuzot for $100. So you should tell her, excuse me, you have one for $200. Give me those. I want those. Where are you going to put it? In your room? In your children's room? Put the best mezuzah you can. Shomer, it says, Shomer dlatot Israel, but you want better than that. What do you need a dog for? I know people are crazy. I mean, mama's crazy. They sleep with the dogs in the beds. זה לא נורמלי. לא שמעתי כדבר הזה. זה שיגעון. It's crazy. So the Ramban says, those dogs מזיק לרבים. It causes damage. Especially if you walk your dog, needless to say, without getting into it. You don't get me on with dogs, man. You know, I like dogs, they're very nice, but in the house, if I would live in a moshava or live in a farm, I'm still, I get a dog. I live in Queens, for crying out loud. What do I need a dog for? It's a big problem with those dogs. I mean, you cause us damage. You walk with your dog on Shabbat. You pull your dog like this because he's running after another dog. Now you metaltel muktzeh. The dog, you know, does whatever he does on the grass. Now you got to pick it up. That is muktzeh also. It's not graf shel rei, but you got to pick it up. Who's the boss here? When there was COVID, you know, we were in closure. I used to sit in a place in my house that I could actually see the street. I'm telling you, the sights that I saw were amazing. I saw this woman who was using toilet paper on the dog. I said, who's the master, who's the dog here? This is crazy. This is crazy, mama's crazy. And this dog creates problems. Mezik tarabim, right? Ve'az nodrim, and therefore they make a neder, that money of the truma to the mikdash, to remove themselves that feeling of disgrace that they have, to be mechaper the avon. All right, I'll give some money. Rabbi, I just stole a few $1,000s. You think if I give money to Yeshiva, I'll give 10%, it's okay? No, you can't do that. The mikdash is not a money laundering apparatus. Not the Bet HaKnesset, not a yeshiva. It's not a washing machine. You don't launder your money through holy places like this. And I'm going to tell you something. To launder money through a holy institute like a Bet HaKnesset, to launder money like a place like a yeshiva, falls under this avera of etnan zona or mechir kingdom. Falls under that. So, or as it says, as the Nevi'im said it later on, Ki tavohu lirot panai, mi bikeshut miyadchem remos chatzerai. You're going to come to see my face. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, who asked you to come here altogether? Who asked you to come here? You want to come here pure. Don't come here for you to feel better. Come here because you want to see me. And Chazal also, we're talking about the pasuk, Botzei berech nietz Hashem, and they learned that the person who stole the dough, right? He stole, he saw somebody making dough, he stole it. And then megalgel enav, and he says, mafrish chala, asher kideshayni b'mitzvotav leafrish chala, and he takes chala, right? It's a wasted effort to kosher something that is disgraceful. You coming to me mafrish chala from bread that you stole? What kind of a thing is that? So the problem is not in the disgraceful just of the Kodesh, of the holy, or this impossible, almost shatnez of Kedusha and Tum'ah together. It's not just that, but the real problem is this unbearable easiness of pushing away the sin, not dealing with the fact that I did something wrong. You think that if you want to pay money, it's okay. Your avera, you did the avera like this, and you don't even show any remorse for it whatsoever. The lack of an effort to really change your actions, your values, like really to change them, but rather to use some kind of like a cosmetics, to beautify that ugly reality that is your actions. And that is the problem. Not the problem of okay, anybody does an avera, everybody does like this. And it's possible. We can all, chas v'shalom, do an avera, we can all sin. But the kalut, the lightness that we do the avera, and we say, okay, I'll give the money. Why do you think one of the explanations that Bet HaMikdash was taken from us is because of that? It's because of that. People did averot. So, okay, no, don't worry about it. Yalla tavize, barashka, bring some korban, Bet HaMikdash. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is what you're doing. Where's the remorse? Where's the regret? Where's the guilt? I'm sorry. Today you can feel guilty. It's not good. Well, take the psychologists that they continue smoking the joints and leave us alone to run our life the right way. Guilt is good. To feel guilty is good. Don't make excuses. Oh, it's okay for you to cheat on your wife because your mother was controlling. That's shtuyot b'mitzvot. Nonsense. Those psychologists should be, put in a loony bin altogether and shipped to China, as far as I'm concerned. They shipped to Afghanistan. You did something wrong. What you're doing is horrible. And you should know that it's bad, and it's okay to feel bad. If you really feel bad about it, maybe you'll change something about it. The problem is not in the disgrace of bringing this kind of like repulsive korbanot or sacrifices that they used to bring, but really the quick change between the action and the pill that we take, the quick fix that we take and bring in those korbanot, or what we call it the day after pill. You did something bad, don't worry, take some pill, it's going to be okay. No, that's not good. You cannot bring about something so holy, or bring a korbanot to justify such a inferior behavior and repulsive behavior that is absolutely out of control. We feel that we're allowed to do everything. Now, if you remember, Rabbi Eliezer said this isur in a very close fashion, and he really held this prohibition is really refers to bring in the korban, bring in the etnan as the korban, but not to the actual fact of giving the etnan as a donation for other things. On this Rabbi Eliezer, it says in Masechet Avodah Zarah that he was sentenced to death by the Romans. He was sentenced to death. And when he was saved from death, he made a cheshbon nefesh, and he tried to understand what did he do wrong to deserve such a punishment. And then he remembered that one time he met this heretic, and this heretic asked him, are you allowed to use etnan zonah in order to make the Kohen Gadol a bathroom? Okay, I'm not going to bring as a korban. I'm going to take this money, I'm going to build the Kohen Gadol a bathroom. And we know that the Kohen Gadol is separated from his house. I'm going to read it in Yom Kippur, to the Lishkat Paledrin, a week before Yom Kippurim. And over there he prepares for this great event and so on and so forth. And we prepare everything for him in Lishkat Paledrin. Of course, the question is, if we're preparing everything, are we allowed to use the Etanan Zonah for something, which is disgraceful as it is, to something disgraceful as Mechilah Min HaKavod going to the bathroom? And Rabbi Eliezer really enjoyed this opinion of this heretic, and he looked in Sefer Micha, right? And in Sefer Micha he says, "Ki mi'etnan zona kavtza v'ad etnan zona yashuvu, mimakom tinofet ba'u u'lemakom tinofet elechu." They came from a disgraceful place, and they're going to go to a disgraceful place. And he looked over there in order to really permit this act altogether of donating the money, right? Even though that the original pasuk talks about the destruction of Shomron, which is the kingdom of Israel, which, by the way, it's fascinating. It's one of the things that we don't learn and not being taught about, and you should really unfortunately, so much that the only place to learn from them today appropriately is from archaeologists. Hopefully there are religious archaeologists that don't have other agendas, but just tell you what is there to learn about the history of Shomron. So in the destruction of Shomron, right? So they said that the money for the etnan, to Avodah Zarah, they should spread around for those who conquer Shomron and those who destroy Shomron. And because the Rabbi Eliezer enjoyed this divrei Torah from this heretic, Rabbi Eliezer was sentenced to death like a heretic himself. If you want to look further into that, look in Masechet Avodah Zarah and Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. It's very fascinating. So that, in a way, that legend, it examines with sarcasm the weakness of the mindset of Rabbi, or the school of thought of Rabbi Eliezer, and really puts the holiest action, or in the holiest act by the holiest person, right? As right in front of him there is the filth of all filths. Now, the Rav Kook writes something which is fascinating. Rav Kook writes, "Kol agdolot sheba'olam einam maziza kol dehau mitviot ktanot." It doesn't make a difference how great you are, as a great person you are, But still, everybody has small demands that we all have to abide to. As my grandmother, Alea Shalom, used to say all the time, even Queen Elizabeth goes to the bathroom. She goes to the loo, as they say, right? So it doesn't make a difference. And by the way, that's why we know why Paro wanted to show that he's better than everybody, so he would never go to the bathroom in front of his people. He used to go to the Nile once a day, and when he was bathing, he was doing whatever he was doing in the Nile, polluting the Nile, but nevertheless, nobody ever saw him going to the bathroom. That's why he declared himself to be a god, because he doesn't go to the bathroom. Rav Kook says it doesn't make a difference how great you are. There are small things everybody has to do. And it says, the Rav Kook says the following, כמו שאין גדולה שבעולם פותרת ומפקיעה שום תפקיד גופני. It doesn't make a difference how great you are. When nature calls, nature calls. That's what your body needs. Now the question is, what do you do with it and how you do it? But there are physical needs of the body that we need to supply them to abide by. And it has nothing to do with how great you are. You can't prevent yourself from doing that. And it says, כמו שאין שום גדולה שבעולם פותרת ומפקיעה שום תפקיד גופני, גם השפל שבשפלים. And if you want to look, I think we had it here in Sefer Orot HaTshuva, in Perek Yud-Bet, he brings it over there. A great person cannot be dismissed or cannot be exempt from dealing with little things, like any other person, whatever that would be. Whatever, say, oh, this is too small for me. Oh, this is really nothing for me. As much as the body of a great man operates, also the body of the wicked man operates. What separates between the two is their actions. The body is all the same. But the gadlut, being a great person, what makes the difference is what guides the person by accepting the tahara, accepting life of purity, and directing it to all his aspects of life. That's what makes a person into a gadol. That we say, when the Rama says, Shiviti Hashem leneged enai klal gadol be'avodat haboreh, right? That refers to a person that everything that he does should direct himself towards Ribono Shel Olam. That's how you become great. Everything that you do examines. Is this glory to Hashem? Is what I'm doing is derech Torah? Even things like Mechila min hakavod, going to the bathroom, there's halacha for that as well. I'm not exempt from being shomer Torah and mitzvot even when I go to the bathroom. Everything that I do has to be directed as towards Hashem. Then everything that I do becomes avodat kodesh. And then I become kadosh, not because I'm fantastic, not because I have a long beard and I wear a fur hat. I become holy because of what I do towards Hashem. I become holy not because you called me holy, because what I do, everything that I do has to be directed to Hashem. This is how you purify yourself. The tshuva has to be deep, and direction of your life to Hashem has to be so great that it would bring great light even to dark places. Everything that you do has to be betara. That's why you understand now why the halacha, not like those ignoramus people who think that the halacha comes to strain you and to rule you and to control you. There's a fool who thinks like that. The halacha covers all aspects of your life, from getting up in the morning until how you're going to depart from the world and everything in between. Why? So you'll be able to take those guidelines and shed light of above, orot, into all your actions, that all of a sudden you will be able to bring yourself to a level of almost Adam HaRishon, to know exactly what to do, to be able to determine what's right and what's wrong. Today it's just the opposite. Today they tell you, don't worry about it, it's all good. Live and let live. It's not live and let live. I'm responsible for you, brother. I can't let you do that. You're supposed to bring lights to the world also, not cast a shadow. Don't wrap us with shrouds, wrap us with talit. Bring life into our actions. Bring life into our lives. How are we going to do it if it's not with tshuva? How are we going to do that? We need to be pure. And we're not going to be pure by sitting down and thinking great things or watching, I don't know what, Fox News or CNN or whatever it is. You're going to become pure by, first of all, turning all these things off. Turning it off. You don't need this filth into your life. You need to bring light into your life. And life is Torah, Rabotai. That's Torah or. There's no Torah. We're no different than an animal. We're downgrading ourselves. You learn Torah, you bring in Hashem as your partner to your life, all of a sudden, your life is worthy to be called life. Anywhere you go, you bring light, you bring bracha. But a person who is immersed into excuses all the time, he's not going to learn. He's going to be negligent about this. And he's going to be able to take this sanctified life and basically, as we said, flush him down the toilet. And we can't do that. A person that thinks that if he's going to do averot and he's going to donate some money and he's going to say, oh, thank God, I was saved by that, that's called avodah zarah. A person that falls into that, that's idol worshipping. Idol worshipping is not necessarily bowing down to idols. Idol worshipping is that you think that you could bribe God with money. That doesn't happen. That cannot happen. So, as we know, all the ta'avot, all the desires, and the endless desires that we have for pleasure in life, from all these things that we could, it's natural. A person is being drawn to things that arouse his yetzer, or things that he's not allowed to do. And the first thing in the war, and especially in the war of yetzer, is to really put some space between you and those things. To put gederot, to put fences, to be more machmir in that. Nothing will happen. Yes, kashrut, yes, all these things that we're talking about. And I've told you this 1,000,000 times, including Chalav Israel, including all these things that everybody's trying to cut corners. These are not ways of rabbis to control your life. Again, if you think so, you are a fool. These are ways that rabbis had put in place for us not to fall and stumble, to try to win. So first of all, I need to separate it. If I have an enemy, let's say I'm a country. Let's say, for example, I'm Jordan. I'm Israel, okay? And I have a neighbor who is my enemy. Let's say Hezbollah in Lebanon, right? So I know this is the border. This is Israel. This is Lebanon. And I'm telling you, you're going to come close to the fence, or you're going to come next to my fence, and I'll blow you up. There's a fence. Don't cross the fence. I know how to deal with that. But how do I deal with those enemies who are actually among us, what we call the fifth column? How do we deal with them? It's impossible. They are inside of us. They're all sleeper cells. So what do I need to do? First thing, I need to separate it. The same thing to you, and I'm telling you something, and I'm challenging to you. If you have people in your life, regardless of how wonderful person you are, and how accepting of a person you are, if you have negative people around you that usually help you or cause you to do things that you know you're not supposed to be doing, cut all ties with them. Because it's not about being cruel or being aloof. It's about giving yourself a chance. If you're not going to be able to do so, you're going to fail. You're not going to win the war. You're going to fail. it's going to overwhelm you. You're not going to be able to tell between a friend and a foe. So you need to distinguish very carefully. And it doesn't make a difference if it's people you went to school with, even if it's family. If the negative influence on you, cut it, because you're going to get lost. You're going to lose. You're going to lose it. It's like, and you know how it is with averot. A person is not going to say, I'm just going to do a little bit averah, and then I'm going to stop. It's okay. What's the big deal, Rabbi? So it's fish, kosher. It's okay, I can eat there. No, Batai, it's not. I'll give you an analogy. A person goes on top of the building. I don't know, goes to a high building. You tell him, what are you doing? He said, I want to jump. So why you want to jump? You're going to hurt yourself. Don't worry, I'm just jumping 2 floors. Then I'm going to stop. If you're jumping, you're not going to be able to stop 2 floors down. You're going to stop when you're going to hit the bottom. And when you hit the bottom, it's going to hurt you. And most likely you're not going to make it. So don't go in there to begin with. Don't go into that zone to begin with. That's why we need to be careful, not only from Isur, even something that is heter and is quite questionable. Put some space between you and it, so you won't come to fall. That's all the gzerot, all the takanot, all the rulings of Chachamim, midirabanan, is that we would not fall. They took it one step to help us. I don't know if any of you drove in dirt roads and places. I remember I learned to drive in Israel. I learned to drive on a truck, on a huge diesel truck. And my teacher who took me to drive there, I got it as a bonus from the army. From the Air Force. I was a soldier of excellence, so they gave me a bonus. The guy scared the heebie-jeebies out of me. He used to take me to dirt roads when there are 18-wheelers coming down, at full speed ahead, and to the side, there's no railing. And he used to tell me, okay, you see the tree? You're going to stop there. On the edge, because the truck is coming down. And I know that if I'm 10 inches here, this truck is taking me and half of the truck with it. And it's really scary. And then I start to appreciate the railings that they put in roads. And if you drive on the road, it's the same thing. Sometimes you have the yellow line, and then you have those ridges like this on the road, so it will make noise. Then you have it like this. This exactly is Rabbanan. You can drive the whole entire road, but you should know when it's the yellow line and when it starts making that noise, and then when you hit the railing, because if not, you're not going to be able to stop when you fall. And it's going to be painful. So we need to appreciate this. And how do you know this? How do you appreciate it? By learning it. When you learn it, you learn how to love it. If you don't learn Torah, you cannot love Torah. If you don't love Torah, you're never going to appreciate it. And that's something we need to do. The Sefer Netivot Shalom, I'm going to skip a little bit here as always. It says, when you go to the war, HaKadosh Baruch Hu guarantees you that you're going to win it. But you need, first of all, to decide that you want to go to the war. There's no commandment. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe lemor, Tetzei lamilchama al oivecha. He said, Ki tetzei. If you would like to go, it's up to you if you're going to fight the Yetzer Hara, if you decide to fight your averot. Says the Netivot Shalom, Ki tetzei meramez al derech hayetziah lemilchama. That you're going to this world, it needs to come from you. You need to want it. And you also need to go to a war by leaving everything behind you. In other words, you need to release yourself from your reality, from all your natural tendencies, from all your tchunot, everything that you were born with. And this is how you tell a milchama. You have to be sam nafsho bekapo. Take your soul in your hand and go fight with it. Velo yira, velo yafached. And don't be afraid. Don't be fearful. And you should not think about anybody. When it's coming, and what it says here, it's frightening. Don't even consider the well-being, supposedly the well-being of your wife and your children, because you're going to war now. And it says, why? כדי לנצח, למסור את הנפש מכל מאווייה, כל גרורות העבר שיכולות להדיח אותו מדרך לניצחון. If you're going to start making חשבונות, oh well, what happened with my wife? She needs to go to vacation. She needs to go this. I need to buy her. I don't want her to feel bad. So let me buy her a shaitel up to her, halfway to the back. She feel, no, that's a milchama bayetzer. You need to go straight forward because you need to win it. And we know when you go to war, if you're isha yareh verach levav, if you are coward, you're exempt for going to the war because we don't need cowards in the battlefield. And then you need to fight the Yetzirah, and it's our job to fight everything that it's being bombarded. We have a blitz, ongoing blitz, utumah, filth, impurity, all over our lives. And we need to be strong about it. And we need to put those mezuzot, we need to put Hashem in our hearts, on our doors. And we need to give an example of what is the right thing to do. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Go to the war. If you know you're doing something wrong, change it from the core. Change your behavior. Don't think you can pay it up. Change your behavior. That's called tshuva shlema. That a person should be mithalech b'tshuvato. What does it mean? That right now he changed his ways. Change your behavior from one side to another. Make Hashem your partner. And it's guaranteed to you if you're going to be matzliach. You're going to win the war. Shabbat shalom.